So first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to come to this panel. Hi, can you hear me? No?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, all good. All good.
Yeah, perfect.
No, it was like that.
Maybe you.
Okay.
We can hear you, Miguel. We could
Oh.
hear you as well. Yes,
thank
we can
you.
hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you for joining us in this panel on AI, the buzzword, the current buzzword, wave, and blockchain for auditability and provenance. I have the pleasure to be moderating this panel, continuing with Joseph, David, Gabi, and Alastair. On these days, we have been seeing like blockchain getting more mature, more standards are being delivered. And the first wave of use cases starting in 2012 on traceability, auditability, and provenance. Some of them, were great experiences. We learned a lot, and now we're delivering a more mature and stable ecosystem. So it's the time to see where we're heading now in the blockchain ecosystem. So let me introduce you to Joseph, David, and Gabi, and Alastair, and may you take some time to introduce yourself. So Joseph, are you here?
Yes, hello, I'm Joseph Karis, on behalf of Cyprus Standardization Body, dealing with technology standards and promoting European international standardization nationally and not only nationally and to European levels.
Okay, thank you. David?
Okay, this is David Arroyo from the Spanish National Research Council. I'm leading here the research group in cybersecurity and privacy protection. And I've been involved in the standardization of cybersecurity, applied cryptography, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technologies for more than 10 years. I'm happy to be here to discuss some of the ongoing problems.
Okay, thank you, David. Gabi?
I'm Gabi, I'm the Senior VP of Security and Field CISO at Halborn. And I'm involved in many committees in ISO, and as well as I'm the co-chair of privacy in INATBA. So trying to standardize the things in this more and more institutional Web3 and blockchain space.
Thank you, Gabi. Alastair?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alastair Marke. I'm the Director General of the Blockchain and Climate Institute and the Chair of the National Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Technology Standards Committee at the British Standard Institution.
Thank you. So let's go in deep, going direct to the question. In your experience, where does the combination of AI and blockchain add the most concrete value for auditability and provenance? And where do current standards fall short to supporting that? So who wants to open fire?
Basically, there are two core value zones that we could think about here. Firstly, it is the combination of an immutable data layer, thanks to the core design of blockchain or DLT, plus an AI anomaly detection in many physical supply chains. While maybe the second core value zone is the provenance of AI models or datasets, or we call it supply chain of intelligence, that combines the on-chain logging of training data, and interferences with crypto proof, plus AI that audits its own lineage for bias or poisoning. So I'm not sure whether this would be a good opening for the rest of the discussion.
Yeah, fine. And regarding standards, how do you see we don't have right now any standard covering that, as far as I know. So yeah, where do you see we should
Currently, there is
go first?
There's no unified schema linking AI inferences proof to blockchain transactions. So different suppliers or innovators build their custom bridges, which as a result could lead to work in silos, and there's difficulties to identify any interoperable platforms among different suppliers. The cross-chain orders remained vendor locked, but there is currently no standard interfaces that forces ledger silos. So I think this is a huge pain point when it comes to identifying these gaps in current standardization efforts.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so the main problem now is, as Alastair said, is the fragmentation in the standards, because we have ISO claiming for the system management, and then we have the AI Act, we have NIST for governance, so it's a very fragmented standard, so we don't have let's say end-to-end standard to clarify everything. So this is something, you know, it's a pain point now.
David, Joseph?
Please.
If you
sorry.
if you want to, I really appreciate if you can raise your hand. I'm seeing there in the monitor. So in case you want to, you know, to intervene, please raise your hands. Okay.
Yes, would agree with the rest of the speakers that interoperability across those ecosystems, AI, blockchain, cybersecurity, especially in standardization, is for the moment is a bit let's say fragmented in a way that they have to align better their standards. So they have to have an integration layer defining common architectures from one technology to another, so AI can be used in audit trailing, for example, or other aspects of blockchain. So we can have a better approach and compliance across these technologies.
Okay, David, you wanted to?
The thing is that this is something actually that has been part of the debate in the specific case of blockchain and DLT, because we have to take into account that we have this kind of ecosystem is somehow drawing a very peculiar scene, since we have a technology that is not mature enough, still is not mature enough, but we are trying to impose, not to discuss, to impose a standard de jure without a common background. And on the other hand, we have a very active competition in the artificial intelligence arena, actually with a lot of consequences in the industrial sector. We know plenty of people around us that have been fired because this heavy competition. And since we have this situation, it's very complicated to have all the different actors properly coordinated in order to be coherent with the different regulations, normatives, and standards. Take into account the European case, we have to bear in mind, that actually we have been struggling to properly define the European Artificial Intelligence Act more than 3 years, and now we are amending the European Artificial Intelligence Act. So 3 steps ahead, 5 backward. It makes everything pretty difficult. If we think about how to properly implement fairness, accountability, and transparency in this ecosystem, all these changes made everything even more complicated. And it is not only that the ecosystem is fragmented, it's also the point that it's very unbalanced. We don't have exactly the same task force trying to push forward standards and way of doing things in technology from Europe, from USA, from China. There are plenty of different approaches with a lot of asymmetries. And this makes it even more difficult to achieve an agreement and to properly implement means to monitor how technology is deployed and how technology is supervised. So we have a lot of challenges in this regard. So there are standards. If we take a look, for example, just looking for DEFIR standards in ISO, we have 27037, 27041, 27042, 27043, 27035. There are plenty of them. Now we need to properly bridge that and connect with the implementation of standards below the so-called trustworthy AI. And in the middle, we have to bear in mind that we are fighting in Europe, for example, in order to implement the Cyber Resilience Act, which implies the update of more than 40 different standards. And also, we have the quantum transition. And the quantum transition has a very high impact, for example, in the implementation of verifiable computing. And verifiable computing is a bridge, is a core point in DLT. So we have a lot of things that are ongoing work, and still we don't have a common agreement, even from the theoretical point of view. So it's very difficult in plenty of occasions to think about an agreement in terms of standards, but we need to discuss of that for sure.
Okay, and we don't even mention agents. I didn't, I didn't hear about that, but yeah, what? Yeah, but okay, yeah, feel free.
Yeah, hello. I heard a couple of times that you mentioned the need for harmonized standard on an international level. In the time I have been working with then JTC 21, where the harmonized standards for AI are developed, and also in a discourse with SE 42, where the international standards for AI are developed. The most tricky pain point that I found is that the international community, understandably, isn't willing to subject itself to the European level of protection that comes with the AI Act. So when you're asking for harmonized standards on an international level, do you have any ideas? Because I don't, how to address this conflict of interest that we kind of, on one way, have to comply with European regulation to make harmonized standards, but that on the other hand, of course, not the whole world wants to make itself subject to European legislation. Be interested to hear if anybody has some ideas about that.
Any comment on that?
It's very challenging because, yeah, for example, when you review these standards in the European Union, the other day you can see the APIA thing, the new infra for blockchain and for digital payments, and it said the white paper will be launched in early 2029. So I don't think blockchain will exist or not as we know blockchain today. So I think it's a very good point. We need to harmonize, but always trying to connect with other standards internationally, because as you mentioned, you can standardize everything, but if you are out of the game, you have nothing to do. So that's the challenge.
Any other comment on this regard?
No, totally agree with has been pointed out by both Gabi and the intervention from the audience. The thing is that approach in the case of Europe is pretty peculiar because and it's acceptable because we are heavy. We are a lot of people consuming technology, so we have the right to impose a certain point of view, and we want to be very strong defending a specific and very important rights. But we are not developing the technology, and the history in standards is that the one implementing in technology is the one pushing forward the standard. This has been for more than 200 years, let's say. And so we have a very difficult situation because we want to establish a common background in terms of interoperability, which is critical, not only in the deployment of the final technology, but in the way, for example, that we are reporting incidents. If we don't have a common language, and there we have all the contribution from OpenOasis and also the contribution from the ISACs in ENISA, and a lot of different languages in order to report, only focusing on that. But in the end, there are plenty of problems in order to have the interoperability communicating between the different scenarios where incident reporting is critical. I am highlighting this as a very important point because we are discussing auditability and provenance, and in such a concern, is much more relevant the way we are constructing languages, protocols, and methodologies to communicate the different systems than the underlying technology. For sure, the underlying technology is very critical. But if we don't have this common language in order to make the system actually interoperable, we are losing the point. And we are trying to put that in different laws and in different regulations at the European level without forgetting, not without forgetting, but without having proper idea of how it's going to deliver, how we are going to embody somehow this regulation to be part of the final implementation of the system. So it's a complicated scenario. And take into account that in regards, for example, of the European Artificial Act, now we are discussing the digital omnibus because this contradiction. So,
yeah. Thank you, David. Joseph?
I would agree with David. He says. But I will mention just a few points that, for example, for AI standards, most of them, they were already created by ISO SC42, which is an international technical committee with members from all over the place. And these standards, which anyway, this technical committee is responsible for most of the common technical language and the interoperability, as well as security matters. And these standards, they follow the OECD AI principles or any other, let's say, technical language that it's or specifications that they were or metrics that they were developed by international organizations. And most of the AI standards, they were, for example, from the European committees, they are adapted by ISO. So we are towards on that road. We are not there, but some major steps are being done. And okay, let's don't forget that at market level, for example, companies, they will not building AIs, for example, for each region. But for some designs, they will have more strict compliance issues on their design level, and they will, let's say, adapt accordingly.
Okay, thanks, Joseph. Fiona wanted to say, have a question?
Yeah, thanks very much. There's a couple of things that strike me, and I guess it's something not to forget. It's like the context. So I know that we all know this, but sometimes I think people forget that law and regulation and directives are one thing and standards are another. Standards are living things that change. They're a process of innovation, quite like open innovation, and they're quite discursive. Created, certainly international standards are created through consensus. So for example, in blockchain, nobody looks at, you know, the libraries of ERC open standards and thinks they're fixed in stone. You know, we just write another standard, or we write another part, or it becomes part of a select or selectable group of solution types. And I think that's what we're looking at here. This, you can't write in advance what needs to happen between AI and blockchain. We are in the middle of innovation happening right now. We don't want to fix this or set it in stone. What we want to do is create avenues of open engagement. And really very recently, I'm a project leader at ISO TC307 WG6, which is around use cases, blockchain use cases. And we've had an exploratory meeting with the convener and the project leader in SC42 WG4, which is for use cases. And we hopefully, if it goes ahead, will be exploring ways of mapping our use case templates with their approaches and forging a type of conversation which is market-based. The use cases that we're looking to bring forward are in the marketplace, they're happening, they have use case owners that are not standards makers per se, they are businesses in the real world, like Halborn, like Open Zeppelin, like, you know, these are real businesses coming forward, providing an open learning resource through an open innovation practice. That, honestly, it's work, it's hard work, but it is the way it moves forward. That is how we map those relevant elements from AI and blockchain and assure things like low carbon footprint. If Claude asks me one more time to upgrade, I'm telling you, I'm going on strike. I mean, we need to have these kind of principles and practices around sustainability in our deployment of agents and our explorations. All of those other things that were said are true, the changing work environment, all that kind of thing, but we're only going to be able to map what it is by collaboration and conversation. So I think it does happen. I think it is in conversation and explorations together across those deep knowledge domains.
Thank you, Fiona. Emilio?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Emilio Davila, European Commission DG Connect. So it's quite interesting, the debate we are having now, and there are different issues that are being discussed, like the relation between harmonized standard or common standards being done in Europe or internationally. And of course, one problem we have with the harmonized standard that are providing presumption of conformity with the regulation, and which are important in particular, for instance, for SME, to show that if you include an AI system is in conformity with the law, and then you can bring the system in the market, having the harmonized standard is quite useful for them. Then we are aware, of course, of the international standardization. There was discussion with GTC1 AC42 to see what could be done or what could not be done there. And honestly, there was a lot of discussion, and the problem is sometimes I have the feeling that there is misunderstanding. This is something we are working with GTC1 on, how the harmonized standardization procedure, being able to provide presumption of conformity works. Because simply they didn't want to accept the requirements from the law, say, but we believe this is not. The problem is we need it because the law is what it is. And if there is a reason for the law, then you cannot expect change the requirements of the law in the standardization. And this is something we need to consider, because at the end of the day, otherwise it will not be implemented. Then another thing that David said was also interesting is all the different activities that are going on internationally. And then you have, okay, those in cybersecurity, in AI. Yeah, nobody talk about agentic AI, or they talk, which is happening now, and there is a lot of discussion in ITU. And we need to have somehow a coherent roadmap and see how we can fit the pieces all together, rather than to repeat the same working items in the different organizations because we don't have the resources. Look at the people that are on the table and connected online. This is basically the experts that they are there, and you cannot be traveling around the world in different areas. So that's why we are trying to call for really cooperation between the different international standardization organizations. Yeah, and then of course, okay, I stop here. That was much already.
Thank you, Emilio. Alastair?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, the intervention from our friends and colleagues here are quite enlightening, as we have to really think about either as a standards maker or policy maker, the sovereignty issue. There's a lot of challenges persisting in this field or interface between the AI standard, blockchain standard, value management standards. It's fragmented, as we all agree to that. Digital standards from ISO, CENELAD, EXI or ETSI don't yet fully align with climate accounting, sustainability accounting standards. Even inside ISO, inside CENELAD, there's still a misalignment of the direction between the digital technology-related standards and the value chain sustainability standards or value chain reporting standards. We end up with duplicate proof, and there's no mutual recognition between these two sides of the standardization. So the opportunity here is interoperable layers with common definitions for trusted data that do not compete in silos. The sovereignty issue here is even thornier. Is actually the governance issue. The EU operators need GDPR jurisdiction for CBAM data. CBAM stands for Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which came into force just in January this year. Yet many projects run on actually global public ledgers, not just a national public ledgers. We've had to deploy hybrid or federated models that involve the permissioned side chains plus zero knowledge proof, so that entities can prove compliance without exporting raw data. At the same time, governments sometimes demand sovereign control over MRV, that is monitoring, reporting, verification, AI model, that eventually forces blockchain innovators to develop re-architecture the design of this of the ledger system. Also, the immutability issue clashes with the right to be forgotten under the GDPR in the EU and the UK as well. So I think, and I'm sure that some workaround solution exists, but unfortunately, there's no unified ISO standard yet for that kind of revocable provenance issue that we're facing. So I look forward to more exciting discussions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Okay, no, it's a point that is very related to what Emilio has underlined, that we have a lot of overcrossing and overlapping efforts in different standardization committees, or taking into account, for example, the ongoing work in the academy. For example, previously was underlined that we can solve a lot of things using zero knowledge proof. Okay, zero knowledge proofs are not properly standardized, and we don't have an off-shelf solution in order to implement zero knowledge proof. In plenty of occasions, zero knowledge proof is something we say when we don't really know how to define the solution to the problem we want to tackle. Okay, we can implement, we can use a zero knowledge proof. Which type of zero knowledge proof? Now we have zero knowledge proof, for example, based on snarks. They have plenty of problems in terms of scalability. They have plenty of problems in terms of resource consumption. Zero knowledge proof per se are a challenge, but we are discussing this in a lot of different scenarios as a solution. It's a challenge itself. For sure,
it's not mature enough.
We can leverage zero knowledge proof, we can leverage multi-party computation, even homomorphic encryption, but these three topics that are critical in order to implement governance are a challenge still right now. They are not. So
Yeah, I agree. We have the perfect storm: regulation, standardization, technology coming, everything, everywhere, all at once. And yeah, we have Limara, a question before.
It wasn't a question. It was more to add to the discussion with regards to the EU AI Act. And what often happens is Europe actually starts by actually defining regulation, and the others follow. And although we don't necessarily lead in every sector, it does become a market mechanism that allows other jurisdictions, whether that be the USA, China, to actually follow suit, and it assists globally with regards to any of the acts that follow. So if we can see that with MiCA, we can see that with the DPP, that now it's become a global conversation, and it was begun in Europe. So I believe the same will happen with the EUA Act.
Okay, thank you, Limara. Stefan?
I guess concerning zero knowledge proof, maybe it's not clear to everybody. I want to point you to ETSI ESI STF 705, which is founded by ISBE, also the European Commission for Standardization under EIDAS and other EIDAS subject. We have the ETSI TR 119476 describing the state of the art for zero knowledge proof, and which is now transferred in an ETSI TS 119476 in different parts exactly to standardize zero knowledge proof within the EIDAS environment. So I guess the statement that we do not have standardized zero knowledge proofs is not something which we can keep here. It will be solved within ETSI within the next 12 months. And I hope that we will have an implementing act referring to it. So just a wish to the people from the Commission in the room. Thank you.
Okay. David?
It's not true. We have an effort in order to promote the standardization in terms of global definition, but we are discussing plenty of things about the proper delivering of the technology at the final step, let's say. And still is a very strong area of research. So yeah, we can define something that in the end has a gap in order to be properly implemented. How many of us know a library in order to properly deploy a solution for zero knowledge proof from scratch? How many of them are available?
It's, yeah, I agree. I think you agree to disagree. Okay, so we didn't even, thanks, David. We didn't even talk about the agentic AI. That's the elephant in the room. I thought that the first draft of EIDAS 2 indeed has some approach on agents, software agents, and IoT. It was, it was a dream. Now we reached to reality. We didn't, it's good that we didn't discuss that, but starting with Gabi, the intersection between AI and blockchain is, okay, I'm gonna give my agent all my keys to manage my credentials and my wallets. How do you see that?
Actually, you stole our thoughts from my mind, because I was thinking about when Emilio said that, it's like nobody wants to see the elephant in the room, because we can talk about blockchain and many use cases, but obviously the best use case of blockchain was DeFi. When DeFi appears, everyone wanted to use blockchain, and it's going to be the same for agentic. We have some problems, and one of them is how fast, as Fiona said, how fast the AI space is moving, and you have to adapt quicker than now we do. And having this agentic, the real problem will be when agentic payments, as you mentioned, is like, where is the border between oversee and logging AI and executing? So are you going to give all the permissions to your keys to the AI? So this is a problem is not very well developed yet, in my opinion, but you can see Coinbase with the standard X402. So if something is coming, and if we don't find a solution fast enough, we will have a problem.
Yeah. Any other comment? Sorry. Yeah. Christian?
Yeah, and on this one, I have a short comment. So I think the interesting thing with AI is that potentially AI can solve problems, and with a bit of time and development, it will probably be able to solve most intellectual problems faster and more reliable than humans. But what AI can't do is taking responsibility. And that's really the niche where I see the potential for blockchain to introduce accountability in agentic AI. That I believe that AI will be very good at negotiating potential solutions and then feeding those potential solutions back to the people responsible, agreeing and refining the little details of that stuff. That's where I see the journey going.
Any other comment? Okay, Emilio?
That's sort of one that I forgot to say. No, I think what Fiona says makes a lot of sense. That if we want to bring the different part of the puzzle, so blockchain, AI, all the others, it's important that the different groups start talk together and identify who should be done by what and have a common approach. Otherwise, again, we can go in all kind of directions. That would not be good, in my opinion. Yeah.
Reining in your agents. You gotta rein in the discussion.
Okay, so we are about to finish. So if you can have a final, yeah.
I think blockchain is not for watching or for doing this job in AI. So there is a concept now which is the governance AI agents, because many research show how AI agents become lazy day by day. So it exists those governance agents. They are reset every day, and they will watch for that. So many companies they decided to integrate AI for everything, and now the new thing they are integrating is those AI governance agents to watch the AI. So blockchain can be useful to tamper evidence, for example. It's very good, but not for watching the AI. It's like the only way to watch the AI is using AI.
Okay. So a final round, because we have to close. So if you have you could like have a briefing and a short like discourse. Who's David that has the hand raised?
No, just a final comment in regards of agency. For sure, agency is critical, and take into account that, for example, in the case of the European Artificial Intelligence Act, there is a very important set of exceptions regarding the open source solution. And this type of exception makes even more difficult to conduct proper connection between cost and effect, and in the end to implement accountability and liability in terms of agency. We can establish a specific provenance solution in order to know what is the origin of an action and the consequences of this action, but then we have to be very clear what we mean about agency. It's going to be the responsible of a potential problem, the software developer, the company, the one using the code that is made public through an open access interface. So we have plenty of situations that are very difficult to be tackled in terms of agency. Sure, any register that can be handled without easy way to tamper evidence would be very useful, but it's not just the solution, as Gabi has underlined. It's much more complex. It requires plenty of check and balances and the capability of putting together a lot of competing interests.
Okay, thank you, David. Alastair?
Yeah, thank you. So other than governance that my fellow panelists talk about, I think another main lessons we have to focus on here is trust again. Though we talk about this from day one of the blockchain discussion many years ago, that is about how we move from fragmented, self-reported claims to something verifiable, transparent, and reliable across complex global supply chains. And the lessons, there are two lessons that stands out here in my view. Trust is technical and institutional. Standards bodies and regulators are central, and they have to work together. But also even different committees within the same standards body have to work together, whether you focus on blockchain, DLT, AI, or any other digital technology that form parts of the infrastructure for monitoring or managing the provenance of any globalized value chain. While AI eggshells are assessing and validating data quality, blockchain DLT ensures that once it's recorded, it's auditable forever. That's why initiative like today's Joining Forces event does matter, which is about bridging technical innovators with the standards ecosystem so that provenance becomes the credible foundation for scaled sustainability action, not just a promising concept that we're talking about. We want to roll our sleeve and work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alastair. Joseph?
As a final comment, I will say that standardization bodies in subjects like technologies where regulations are more complex, they have to align better between technical committees. So we have to overcome problems like integrations, common architectures of technologies, securities, and implementation. So standards are a way to tackle these problems, but we need better alignment between those bodies.
Okay, thank you. Gabi?
Yeah, so we have hard work to do. And as Emilio said, this is a call for expert and call for collaboration for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your awesome and amazing insights, and hoping to see more happening on the AI, agentic AI and blockchain space. Thank you very much.